Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Espresso English, the podcast that makes learning English easy, fun, and approachable for beginners like you. I'm John, and I'm here with my awesome co-host, Sarah. Together, we're going to guide you through your English learning journey.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, and we're so excited to have you here. Whether you're just starting to learn English or you want to build your confidence speaking, this podcast is for you. Each episode will focus on a different topic, everything from basic grammar and everyday vocabulary to tips on how to start speaking and improve your listening skills.
Exactly. We'll break things down step by step, making sure everything is clear and easy to understand. Plus, we'll throw in some fun examples and real-life conversations to help you practice. You'll not only learn how to use English, but you'll also learn why it works the way it does.
And don't worry, this isn't about memorizing boring rules. We're here to make English enjoyable, practical, and most importantly, something you can start using right away. By the end of this podcast, you'll be more confident speaking, listening, reading, and even writing in English.
So grab a cup of coffee or tea, relax, and let's start learning together. You're going to love how simple learning English can be.
Let's dive into today's topic.
A comprehensive guide for beginners. Learning English. Learning a new language like English can be an exciting and rewarding journey. As a beginner, it's important to approach the process with patience and persistence. English is a global language, used for communication in many countries and across industries, making it one of the most useful languages to learn. In this guide, we will walk through the steps necessary for you to start learning English, progress gradually, build your speaking confidence, and eventually become fluent.
All right, everyone. Now we're going to break down a paragraph to help you understand what it's all about. Sarah, why don't you start by reading the paragraph?
Sure, here it is. A comprehensive guide for beginners learning. English. Learning a new language like English can be an exciting and rewarding journey. As a beginner, it's important to approach the process with patience and persistence. English is a global language, used for communication in many countries and across industries, making it one of the most useful languages to learn. In this guide, we will walk through the steps necessary for you to start learning English, progress gradually, build your speaking confidence, and eventually become fluent.
Thanks, Sarah. So, let's take this step by step to help everyone follow along. The first sentence says, "Learning a new language like English can be an exciting and rewarding journey." What this means is that learning English can feel like a big adventure. It's something that can be exciting, or fun, and rewarding, which means it gives you something good in return. It's not just about learning words and grammar, it's about gaining skills that will help you in many areas of life.
Exactly. And the next part says, as a beginner, it's important to approach the process with patience and persistence. So, what does this mean?
Good question. As a beginner means that you're just starting to learn. Now, two important words here are patience and persistence. Patience means being able to wait and not get frustrated if you don't learn something right away. You won't become fluent overnight, and that's okay. Persistence means not giving up, even when it gets difficult. You have to keep trying day after day to make progress.
Yeah, learning a new language takes time, but if you stick with it, you'll see results. Moving on, the next sentence says, English is a global language, used for communication in many countries and across industries, making it one of the most useful languages to learn. So, English is called a global language. This means people all around the world use English to communicate, whether they're in business, science, or even just traveling. That's why English is so important. It's useful in a lot of different situations.
Exactly. That's what makes learning English so valuable. And the last part says, in this guide, we will walk through the steps necessary for you to start learning English. Progress gradually, build your speaking confidence, and eventually become fluent. Let's break that down. Walk through the steps means that we'll guide you through the process, step by step. Progress gradually means you'll improve slowly but steadily, without rushing. Build your speaking confidence means you'll practice speaking until you feel comfortable and sure of yourself. And eventually become fluent means that, with time and practice, you'll be able to speak English smoothly, without thinking too much about it.
That's right. So, in this paragraph, the author is telling you that learning English is a journey, one that will take time, patience, and effort, but one that is totally worth it because English is so widely used around the world.
Well said, Sarah. And to help our listeners, let's quickly go over some of the key vocabulary we just discussed. Exciting means something fun or thrilling. Rewarding means it gives you good results or benefits. Patience is staying calm even when things are slow or difficult. Persistence means never giving up, even when it's hard. Global language means a language spoken all over the world. And fluent means speaking a language easily and naturally.
Perfect. So that's the breakdown of this paragraph. Remember, when you're reading or listening to English, don't worry if you don't understand everything right away. Just keep practicing, and over time, it will get easier.
You've got this. Keep following along, and we'll guide you every step of the way. Let's move on to our next topic.
1. Where to start setting a strong foundation. The understanding your motivation. Before diving into English learning, it's essential to identify why you want to learn the language. Are you learning it for travel, work, academic reasons, or simply for personal growth? Knowing your motivation will keep you committed, even when the learning process feels challenging. B. Set clear, realistic goals. When starting to learn English, setting achievable goals is crucial. For instance, if you're a complete beginner, your first goals might include learning basic greetings and introductions, familiarizing yourself with the English alphabet and common sounds, memorizing 20 to 50 basic words or phrases. As you progress, you can set intermediate goals like being able to hold a short conversation, understanding basic grammar rules, writing a simple paragraph about yourself or your day.
Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing with our breakdown of how to start learning English. The next part of our guide is called Where to Start, Setting a Strong Foundation. It's all about building a solid base before diving into the learning process. Sarah, could you read the paragraph for us?
Absolutely. Here's how it starts. Before diving into English learning, it's essential to identify why you want to learn the language. Are you learning it for travel, work, academic reasons, or simply for personal growth? Knowing your motivation will keep you committed, even when the learning process feels challenging.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's break that down for our listeners. The first sentence says, before diving into English learning, it's essential to identify why you want to learn the language. Diving into means starting something enthusiastically or quickly. In this case, it means beginning to learn English. But before you start, you need to figure out why you want to learn the language. What's your reason?
Exactly. And then it gives examples of possible reasons. Are you learning it for travel, work, academic reasons, or simply for personal growth? If you're learning for travel, you might need basic conversation skills to talk to people in other countries. If it's for work, you might want to focus on professional language. Academic reasons means learning English for school or university. And personal growth means you're doing it because you simply want to learn something new and improve yourself.
That's right. Your motivation, or your reason for learning, will help keep you going when things get tough. So, if you ever feel stuck, just remind yourself why you started in the first place.
Absolutely. Now, the next part talks about setting goals. It says, when starting to learn English, setting achievable goals is crucial. This means that when you're starting out, it's really important to set realistic or achievable goals, goals that you can actually reach. You don't want to try to do too much at once because that can get frustrating.
Exactly. So, let's look at some of the beginner goals mentioned. Sarah, what does it suggest as a good starting point?
It says your first goals might include learning basic greetings and introductions. This means getting comfortable with saying things like, "Hello, how are you?" or "My name is." Familiarizing yourself with the English alphabet and common sounds. This means learning the letters A to Z and how they sound in English. Memorizing 20 to 50 basic words or phrases, which could include things like yes, no, please, and thank you.
Those are all great places to start. As a beginner, these small steps build your confidence and give you a sense of progress. And remember, learning a few words and phrases at a time helps you create a solid foundation.
Definitely. Once you have the basics down, you can move on to intermediate goals. The guide mentions being able to hold a short conversation, like introducing yourself or asking simple questions. Understanding basic grammar rules. Grammar is how we put words together in a sentence. Writing a simple paragraph about yourself or your day. So you might write something like, "Today I went to the store and bought some fruit."
That's right. These intermediate goals help you go beyond just memorizing words. They teach you how to put those words together in real-life situations. And one thing to remember, don't rush. Learning takes time, so setting these smaller goals will help you see your progress step by step.
And let's go over some key vocabulary here. Motivation is your reason for doing something. Achievable means something you can realistically do or reach. Familiarize means to get to know something or become more comfortable with it.
Perfect. So, to all our listeners, as you begin learning English, remember to 1. Know why you're learning. 2. Set small, reachable goals. 3. And build your skills one step at a time.
We're here to guide you through each of those steps, so don't worry. We'll make sure you stay on track.
That's right. Now, let's continue with our next topic.
2. Basic skills you need to focus on. English, like any language, has 4 essential components: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These are the foundational skills that you need to develop in parallel to make well-rounded progress. Let's explore how to build each one. A. Listening. Listening is one of the most critical skills when learning English, especially because English sounds may differ from how they appear in writing. Start by listening to English as much as possible, even if you don't understand everything at first. Exposure is key to familiarizing yourself with the rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation of the language. How to improve listening. Listen to slow, clear audio for beginners. Find English podcasts, YouTube videos, or audiobooks specifically created for beginners. Many platforms offer slow speech versions that can be easier to follow. Watch English TV shows or movies with subtitles. Subtitles can help you match spoken words with written text, which is extremely helpful in improving both listening and reading skills. Listen to English music. Songs can help with pronunciation, rhythm, and memorizing new vocabulary.
All right, welcome back everyone. Now we're going to dive into an essential part of your English learning journey, the basic skills you need to focus on. Sarah, would you read the next part for us?
Sure. Here's the section we'll be talking about. English, like any language, has 4 essential components: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These are the foundational skills that you need to develop in parallel to make well-rounded progress. Let's explore how to build each one.
Thanks, Sarah. So, let's start by talking about what 4 essential components means. When we say essential, it means something is very important or necessary. The 4 key skills you need to master are listening, speaking, reading, writing. These are the basic skills of any language, and in English, they work together to help you become a strong, well-rounded learner.
Exactly. And it's important to note that you should work on these skills in parallel, which means at the same time. This will help you improve your overall ability to understand and use English. So don't focus only on one skill. Try to practice all 4 regularly.
Great point. Now, let's take a closer look at each skill, starting with listening. Sarah, can you explain what the paragraph says about listening?
Of course. The paragraph says, listening is one of the most critical skills when learning English, especially because English sounds may differ from how they appear in writing. Start by listening to English as much as possible, even if you don't understand everything at first. Exposure is key to familiarizing yourself with the rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation of the language. So, first of all, listening is really important because in English, words often don't sound exactly the way they look when written. For example, the word knife starts with a silent K, so it sounds like knife, but that's not obvious from reading it.
That's a good example. And the word exposure here is also important. It means being around something or being in contact with it. So, when the paragraph says exposure is key, it means that listening to English often, hearing how people actually speak, is one of the best ways to improve.
Absolutely. Now the paragraph gives us some tips on how to improve listening skills. Let's go through them. First, it says, listen to slow, clear audio for beginners. This means you should look for podcasts, videos, or audiobooks that are designed for people just starting out. These resources usually have slower speech and simpler vocabulary, making it easier for you to follow along.
That's right. And the second tip is watch English TV shows or movies with subtitles. Using subtitles is a great way to connect the words you hear with the words you see. For example, if you're watching a show in English, you can turn on subtitles in your language or in English to help you understand better. You'll hear the words spoken and see them written at the same time, which is helpful for both listening and reading.
Exactly. And the third tip says, listen to English music. Music is a fun way to improve your listening. It helps you learn pronunciation, rhythm, and sometimes even new words. Plus, songs often repeat phrases, which makes it easier to memorize vocabulary.
Yes, and don't worry if you don't understand all the lyrics right away. Just enjoy the music and focus on picking up the sounds and words as you listen. So, to quickly summarize, listening is essential because it helps you understand how English sounds in real life. Start with slow, clear audio that's designed for beginners. Use subtitles to help connect what you hear with what you read, and have fun with music to make your listening practice more enjoyable.
That's right. And let's go over a few important vocabulary words we just talked about. Essential means something necessary or very important. Exposure means being around something often, like hearing English daily. Rhythm is the flow of speech or how fast or slow someone speaks. Intonation is the rise and fall in someone's voice when they speak. And subtitles are the words that appear on the screen while you're watching a video or movie.
Perfect. So, as you're learning English, remember to listen as much as you can and keep practicing. Next, we'll explore the other 3 skills: speaking, reading, and writing.
B. Speaking. Speaking can often feel intimidating for beginners, but it's important to start practicing early. One common misconception is that you need to know all the grammar and vocabulary before speaking. The truth is, you can start speaking from day 1. How to improve speaking? Start with simple phrases. Use common expressions for greetings, introducing yourself, and asking simple questions. For instance, "Hi, how are you?" or "My name is." Practice speaking aloud, even if you're alone. You can repeat what you hear in videos, read a text aloud, or describe what you see around you. Speaking out loud helps train your brain to associate thoughts with words in English. Find a speaking partner. If possible, find a language partner or join an English conversation group online. This gives you real-life practice and helps you build confidence in speaking.
Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing our discussion on the essential skills for learning English. So far, we've covered listening, and now it's time to talk about speaking. Sarah, would you mind reading the next part for us?
Absolutely. Here it is. Speaking can often feel intimidating for beginners, but it's important to start practicing early. One common misconception is that you need to know all the grammar and vocabulary before speaking. The truth is, you can start speaking from day 1.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's break this down for our listeners. The first sentence says, "Speaking can often feel intimidating for beginners." The word intimidating means something that makes you feel nervous or scared. Many people feel this way when they're starting to speak a new language because they're afraid of making mistakes.
Exactly. But the key point here is that it's important to start practicing early. You don't need to wait until you know everything to start speaking. In fact, the sooner you start, the better. It helps you get comfortable using the language and gives you real-life practice.
That's a great point. And notice the next part where it says, "One common misconception is that you need to know all the grammar and vocabulary before speaking." A misconception is a wrong idea that many people believe. In this case, a lot of learners think they need to be perfect with grammar and know tons of vocabulary before they can start speaking, but that's not true. You can begin speaking from the very beginning, even if you know only a few words.
Exactly. The truth is, you can start speaking from day 1, which means right away. So, don't wait until you feel ready. Just jump in and start speaking, even if you make mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning.
Now, let's look at some tips on how to improve speaking. The first tip is, start with simple phrases. This means you should begin with easy, everyday expressions that people use all the time. For example, you can practice phrases like, "Hi, how are you?" or "My name is." These are common and useful phrases that you'll hear and use a lot.
Exactly. And the next tip is, practice speaking aloud, even if you're alone. So even if you don't have someone to talk to, just speak out loud by yourself. You can repeat sentences you hear in videos, read something out loud from a book, or even describe what's happening around you. For example, if you're in the kitchen, you might say, "I am making coffee," or "The window is open." Speaking out loud helps train your brain to connect thoughts with English words.
That's a great suggestion. And remember, the more you practice speaking aloud, the more comfortable you'll get. The final tip here is, find a speaking partner. This means finding someone you can practice English with. It could be a friend, someone online, or even a language exchange partner who is also learning your native language. Having someone to talk to helps you practice in real-life situations, and it also builds your confidence because you're having actual conversations.
Exactly. And don't worry if you don't have a partner right away. You can still practice on your own or even join online English conversation groups where people come together to practice speaking.
To quickly summarize, speaking can be scary at first, but it's important to start early. Don't wait until you know everything. Just start with simple phrases. Practice speaking out loud, even if you're by yourself. And if you can, find a speaking partner to practice with.
Right, and let's go over some key vocabulary from this section. Intimidating means something that makes you feel nervous or scared. Misconception is a wrong belief or idea. And speaking partner is someone you can practice talking with in English.
Great job, Sarah. So, to all our listeners, remember, the sooner you start speaking, the faster you'll improve. Next, we'll explore the reading and writing skills you need to focus on.
C. Reading. Reading is an excellent way to expose yourself to new vocabulary and grammar in context. As a beginner, you don't need to jump into reading novels right away. Start with materials designed for your level. How to improve reading. Read short text designed for beginners. These can be graded readers, short stories, or articles with simple vocabulary. Children's books are also a great option because they use easy language. Use online resources. There are many websites and apps offering free reading material for English learners. You can start with small paragraphs, dialogues, or articles, and gradually move on to longer texts. Read regularly. Reading for 10 to 15 minutes a day is enough to build your vocabulary and comprehension skills over time.
Welcome back, everyone. Now it's time to dive into the next skill that's crucial for learning English. Reading. Sarah, would you mind reading the next part for us?
Of course. Here it is. Reading is an excellent way to expose yourself to new vocabulary and grammar in context. As a beginner, you don't need to jump into reading novels right away. Start with materials designed for your level.
Thanks, Sarah. So, let's start with that first sentence. It says, reading is an excellent way to expose yourself to new vocabulary and grammar in context. The word expose means to come into contact with something. So, when you're reading, you're exposing yourself, or getting familiar, with new words and grammar in a natural way. The phrase, in context, means you're seeing how words are used in actual sentences, not just as single words or grammar rules. This is really helpful because you learn not only the meaning of words, but how to use them in real situations.
Exactly. And notice how it says, as a beginner, you don't need to jump into reading novels right away. This means you don't need to start with big, complicated books. A novel is a long fictional book, like Harry Potter or The Great Gatsby. As a beginner, that would be too hard and frustrating. Instead, the key is to start with materials designed for your level, something that's easier to understand and suited for learners just starting out.
Great point, Sarah. Now let's move on to the tips on how to improve reading. The first tip is, read short texts designed for beginners. This is important because short texts, like graded readers, short stories, or articles, use simpler vocabulary and grammar. Graded readers are books or articles written specifically for language learners at different levels, so they're easier to follow. And don't forget, children's books are also a fantastic option because they're written in simple language and often have pictures to help you understand the story.
Exactly. The second tip is, use online resources. There are so many websites and apps that offer free reading materials for English learners. You can find short paragraphs, dialogues, or simple articles that match your level. The great thing about online resources is that you can practice reading anytime, anywhere, and you can choose material that fits your interests.
That's right. The third tip is to read regularly. This means reading a little bit every day, even if it's just for 10 to 15 minutes. Reading consistently helps you build your vocabulary, you learn new words, and comprehension skills, which is your ability to understand what you read. Over time, the more you read, the easier it gets.
Exactly. And I love that it emphasizes gradually moving on to longer texts. So start with small and easy texts, and as you get more comfortable, you can slowly challenge yourself with more complex materials.
Yes, that's key. To summarize, reading helps you learn new vocabulary and grammar by showing them in context or real-life use. Start with short texts, like graded readers or children's books. Use * online resources, * to find free and easy materials to practice. And most importantly, read regularly, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day.
And let's review some important vocabulary from this section. Expose means to come into contact with something. In context means seeing words used in a real sentence. Novels are long fictional books. Graded readers are books written specifically for language learners with easier vocabulary and grammar.
Perfect. So, as you're working on your English, make sure to include reading in your daily routine. Up next, we'll explore the final skill you need to focus on, writing.